Welcome to this explainer. Let's just take a second to slow things down a bit. Deep breath. Today, we're going to explore a profoundly quiet yet absolutely powerful observation from the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. I mean, picture this guy for a moment. He's literally the most powerful man in the world, sitting in a freezing military tent on the Germanic front lines. War and chaos are everywhere, and yet there he is, hunched over parchment, writing a completely private diary to himself, a diary he never ever intended for our eyes. We're going to dive into his deeply personal thoughts on the architecture of compounding virtue and how we actually build ourselves, day by day, into something lasting.
Okay, let's dive into this. Consider the whole concept of the cumulative man. You know, when historians and philosophers look back at Marcus Aurelius in his late life, they see this historical figure of profound character, almost superhuman discipline, and incredible wisdom. But here's the thing. That remarkable character wasn't some sudden overnight achievement. He didn't just wake up one day suddenly enlightened. It was the absolute cumulative result of 40 years of small, deliberate, daily practice. And what were those practices? Let me tell you. They were tough and entirely unglamorous. Things like waking up early when he desperately wanted to stay in bed, daily journaling to ruthlessly examine his own flaws, reflecting constantly on his own mortality, consciously restraining his temper when provoked by political enemies. He was, quite literally, a cumulative man, built action by quiet action.
And this brilliantly illustrates a truth Marcus wrote down in those private pages that is both deeply challenging and incredibly freeing. What compounds across decades is invisible at any specific point along the way. Let that sink in for a moment. This is exactly where we must recognize the law of momentum. Think of a massive, impossibly heavy stone wheel. It takes an agonizing amount of upfront energy just to overcome that initial inertia. You push, and for a really long time, the wheel barely shifts a fraction of an inch. The results of your effort are completely invisible. But you are applying force. The growth is there. The transformation is absolutely happening. It's just that the law of momentum dictates you won't actually see that heavy wheel truly spin on its own until much, much later. You just cannot see the compounding while it's happening. Let's move to and to see how this builds across the timeline of a human life stretching out. We're talking year 1, year 3, year 5, year 10, all the way to year 40. At any specific point along this path, the day-to-day compounding of your virtue, your character, your small daily practices, well, it remains completely unseen. You might feel like you're just walking in place, standing totally still, even as the massive foundation of your entire late-life character is quietly being poured. And it's absolutely crucial to understand that this invisible path isn't uniquely a Stoic concept. If we look across history, we see this exact same multi-decade framework of invisible compounding everywhere. We see it deeply embedded in Confucian rituals, where daily propriety shapes the sage, in Hindu daily dharma, in the repetitive rigors of Sufi ascetic practices, and in the quiet, enduring routines of Christian contemplative traditions. All these convergent traditions point to the exact same reality. The true path is incredibly long, and the daily progress is completely invisible. So the crucial point is understanding the unyielding, simple mechanism behind this kind of profound growth. It requires 3 distinct phases. It starts with step 1, that small daily practice. Then comes the crucible, step 2, that practice compounding across decades. Not days, not weeks, but decades. And why decades? Because we are talking about a fundamental biological and psychological rewiring of the human animal. You're laying down entirely new neural pathways, overriding deeply ingrained evolutionary instincts, and forging an entirely new character. That kind of deep structural engineering simply cannot happen in a single season. It takes decades of weathering storms and staying the course. And finally, step 3, the cumulative man emerges. The compounding required the decades. No single year produced the result. It required the entirety of that time to forge the person he had become. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark, almost uncomfortable contrast it presents for our modern minds. We tend to place an impossible amount of pressure on a single year. We want rapid resolutions, instant transformations, immediate visible feedback, right? We somehow expect a profound life-changing epiphany from a 3-minute life hack online, when reality demands 40 unglamorous years of repetition. But a single year produces absolutely no visible result in the architecture of compounding virtue. None. And that is by design. It is the 40 years, the massive, unglamorous, heavy weight of 40 years of quiet repetition that actually produces the cumulative man. I want to pause here for a second. Take a breath. I want to ask you a question directly, and I really want you to consider it. Have you grown discouraged recently because your specific year has not produced visible change? Have you looked at your daily efforts, your personal practices, your discipline over the last few months and felt like absolutely nothing is happening, like you're just failing? If you answered yes to that, I want you to hear this loud and clear. You are exactly the kind of person this is for. This entire philosophy of macropatience, this ancient understanding of invisible compounding from convergent traditions across the globe, it exists specifically to guide you through this exact moment of perceived stagnation. Feeling stuck isn't a sign of failure. In fact, feeling like nothing is happening is often the primary symptom of doing the invisible work correctly. You aren't failing just because your growth is currently unseen. The foundation is simply being poured underground, deep in the dirt, where no one can see it yet. You're simply in the middle of the decades required for the compounding to do its heavy work. To help you navigate this invisible path, and to give you a framework to track those daily practices that feel so unglamorous, we've created a companion workbook specifically for this explainer. It's designed to keep you grounded when the momentum feels painstakingly slow. If you'd like to use it, just comment the word engine below and we'll send it right over to you. As we wrap up our time together today, I want to leave you with something to deeply consider. Can you find the quiet strength to trust the invisible process in the dark, knowing full well that what you are building today won't truly be seen for decades? Can you commit to the compounding? Think deeply about that. Because this architecture of daily virtue, this is our human blueprint.